she wrote for the qualifying final. Brisbane, big winners over Collingwood by 50 points.
Hello everyone and welcome to the W Show presented by NAB. We are counting down to preliminary final weekend in the AFLW competition. Very exciting time. Nat Edwards and award-winning journalist Sarah Black with you, and we've got a very special guest in the hot seat today. It is a premiership winning coach and of course the new Hawthorn coach in Bec Goddard. Bec, welcome.
Thanks for having me. The hot seat.
Yes, we're going to put you under the pump. No,
Getting hot.
I want all the Hawthorn detail. That's what I want, Bec.
Happy to share within reason.
All right, well, we should talk about what happened yesterday because the Brisbane Lions have booked themselves a place in a historic preliminary final at the MCG against Melbourne after dismantling Collingwood by 50 points at the Gabba yesterday. And Bec, it was a clinical performance by the Lions.
Oh, it really was. They were just on top right from the start and you could feel that something big was coming. Collingwood didn't help themselves. I think I counted 4 goals as a result of 50-metre penalties or free kicks. But yeah, they just weren't up to the standard that Brisbane put on. It's a massive show and what a setup we've got for this week.
How did you see it, Sarah? Because obviously we've waited a little while for this one to come around given the COVID issues that happened with Collingwood, but the Lions, they just made a statement yesterday.
Yeah, they really did. They didn't seem to miss a beat either. They weren't thrown by the fact that, you know, they had to wait an extra week in order to play. One thing that's really impressed me about the Lions this year is how well they play as a team, and I think that was really on show. You know, there was some great performances from the lesser lights, for want of a better term. You know, Belle Dawes, I thought she was excellent. Greta Bodie could have kicked 5 goals, really. So really, they've got so many threats coming forward into the preliminary final.
One of the stars, of course, was Orla O'Dwyer. She was on fire. A true winger, 19 touches, 392 metres gained, even kicked a goal and did it in front of her mum and her sister Sarah, who had arrived from Ireland just 3 days ago.
Yeah, she's super excited about that, as you would be to see family after all that time. She said her dad's on his way for the prelim as well. Orla's just had a career best season. I think there's no doubt about that. You know, she gives such a chop out to the midfielders and she also is such a disciplined player. Like, you know, in those sort of panic kicks or whatever, the clearance kicks, the Lions know that she will be there, whether that's in defence or up forward back.
And I think that's what the Irish players give our game, is they turn up and get it done. They've got a level of resilience that we can learn a lot from. Brisbane have always had good wingers. They've played a game style that always uses their wingers really well. You know, I remember coaching against Kate McCarthy, Caitlin Ashmore. They've always used that game style to their advantage, but Orla O'Dwyer's year has been sensational.
All Australian lock, do you think?
Orla Australian?
I like what you did there.
I think so.
Well played, Sarah. You're on the All Australian committee. A bit of pressure there.
Yeah, I don't know why you're throwing to me that because you know that I cannot say
Every
anything.
time I hope that you might slip up, but she's too good. She's too good. All right, well, let's hear from the Collingwood coach in Steve Simons after the game.
Now, some of those players, yes, they passed medically, but were they up to playing to the level, you know, in a final of pressure? Obviously, a bit of humidity here today. Were they up to that? Well, that's a good question. But, you know, we're always going to try and put our best team together as we can. So I think we did that.
It was a really tough situation, wasn't it, Bec, for the Pies? I mean, you've got COVID, you've got a backup, you don't know what the long-term effects are or even the short-term immediate effects. We saw the Bulldogs were absolutely cooked their first game coming back from COVID. You don't want to use it as an excuse, but it does play a factor.
It did play a factor. I think, you know, we can obviously see that. But I don't think Collingwood will want to use it as an excuse at all. I know certainly the players and they won't want to be talking about that. We know that Collingwood came into finals. They hadn't beaten those top teams. And what we saw was the better team winning yesterday significantly, and that's what should happen.
Sarah, how have you seen the Pies season? Because obviously unfortunate, Britt Benici, Bree Davey both go down with ACLs. And as far as we can see, if the season moves forward, they're missing, you know, season 7 as well. How have you seen their season play out? Because we had such high hopes about Collingwood.
Yeah, it's been patchy, I think it's safe to say. Obviously, incredibly hard to overcome the loss of two top 10, top 5 midfielders in the competition. That's going to be hard. I think the forward line still needs a bit of work. It was one of the question marks coming into the season. We thought maybe with the addition of Sabrina Frederick and Imogen Barnett coming through the VFLW program, maybe that would change things, but they were too tall on the weekend. They were really slow at ground level. So I think that one still needs work. The positive is they've unearthed some nice players. Eliza James, I thought, has had a really nice season.
Do you think the same, Bec, that that's the forward line that really needs that improvement?
Look, that's a hard one. I actually tipped Sabrina to win the leading goal kicker this year. I was that sure that she was going to come into a new club and really make a big impact. So it may not necessarily be her. It might be the style of play and how they're setting up. But there's no doubt they've had to be adaptable. And even yesterday we saw the coaches throw the magnets around in the second half just to try and get a bit of a run on. But like I say, I felt like that momentum was taken out of the game with some really key moments. Steph Chiocci will still be kicking herself over that first one that resulted in a goal.
Yeah.
That took momentum out of it. If it had gone the other way and paid it downfield and Collingwood had kicked it, well, who knows? Who knows what would happen? But there's no point in asking those questions because they can't take it back now.
They definitely can't. Well, the other preliminary final is going to be at Adelaide Oval on Saturday. It's between Adelaide and Fremantle, and the Crows will essentially, it would have been 3 weeks since they last played a game when they finally take to the field. Here's their timeline of what has transpired over the last couple of weeks. And Bec, I want you to put your coach's hat on. How do you manage a situation like this? Because, you know, it's 10 weeks home and around away season, and then all of a sudden you play a final and then 3 weeks off.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But you manage the senior players a little bit differently to the younger players. I think for the likes of Phillips, Randall, Raychick, Thompson, fantastic.
Yep,
like, what a way to be able to rest the bodies properly, still get the training load in that's required. But then with the younger players, you know, how do you keep them up and about? Really that competitive instinct, because that's why the Crows are so good, because they want to win. Their young players want to win all the time. They turn up to game day, they want to win. They get into the change rooms first, they want to win. They want to win at training. So you've got to really be able to manage that. So I think there probably would have been a combination of things as a coach that Matt Clark's done to try and get the wins during the week at training in the build-up to the game this weekend.
There is so much hunger and belief in this Adelaide Crows group after losing that grand final to Brisbane last year. You can really feel it. They will go into this match as hot favourites, Sarah, but how? How on earth, if you're Fremantle, do you beat the Adelaide Crows?
I think you take enormous confidence out of the way you performed against the Crows earlier this year, but also how you performed against North Melbourne. The Dockers were really, really disciplined and mature in their performance and their efforts against the Roos. They really lowered their eyes. They were happy to switch lanes. Kiara Bowers is going to be a huge inclusion. She was best on ground when these two sides played last year. She didn't play earlier this year, so that'll be a big inclusion. You've really got to lock down that Adelaide midfield. Easier said than done. Eloise Jones is going to be a big out for the Crows with suspension. But, yeah, I think it's going to be won and lost in the midfield. All
right, if you're Freo, what are you doing?
Well, I think we've got a really good blueprint. I'm going to give a shout out to another woman in coaching in Natalie Wood, who was the architect for my mind when the Bulldogs beat the Crows earlier this year. And it was a 5-minute patch of play at the start of the game. So if you're Freo, you're Trent Cooper this week, the last couple of weeks, I would have been looking at that first 5 minutes and what the Bulldogs did in the middle of the ground, what they noticed that Hatchard and Marinoff like to do and how they take the football. And really apply those same principles, because Natalie Wood set up the Bulldogs midfield for success. They did it so well, and then that consistent pressure across the game got them over the line and got that win. So I'd really be looking at that. I think the Crows have got a bit to worry about with Bowers too. They're going to have to put some work into her to make sure that her impact isn't going to cause an upset.
And what about Erin Phillips? What do you do with her?
I think you do tag her.
You tag her?
I think we've seen Erin get quite frustrated when she's had tags. You know, some of the more obvious tags that have happened that we've seen and seen public reactions to. You know, Pepper Randall at GWS. Not that GWS were ever in the echelons of being able to beat Adelaide over the last few seasons, but when that's happened, Erin's taken a bit of backseat, and what it does is it just puts a bit more pressure on the other midfielders to find a way to goal. Because we know that she's going to pop up and kick goals. She might not have 30 disposals, but 17's enough with a couple of goals.
Speaking of tags, when we look at the Brisbane-Melbourne game on Saturday, and Kathy Spark, obviously one of the best taggers going around in the AFLW competition, kept Jamie Lambert to just 12 touches and 1 clearance on the weekend. But Sarah, if you had to pick one Melbourne midfielder to go to, who would it be?
I think traditionally you'd say Karen Paxman, but Paxi hasn't been playing quite as much, pure midfield time this year. So I'm thinking we'll go for the Rising Star winner of last year and Tyler Hanks. I think Tyler's been incredibly creative. You do have the risk there of Lily Mithen getting off the chain, but Tyler's really been a creator in there, I think.
What's the key to beating the Dees if you're Brisbane?
I'd bring in. Well, actually, I think the venue is an advantage to Brisbane because Melbourne don't have the wind from Casey Fields. If I'm Melbourne, I'm bringing in an enormous industrial strength fan and sitting it down at the Jollymont M just to blow it down the field. Because,
on a diagonal angle.
Yeah,
into
just
the
on the
pocket.
diagonal. Yeah. Because what a bonus that's. But they play those conditions fantastically. But it's the first time that both of these sides have been able to play as a group on the MCG, and I think that venue is going to be different. Brisbane have got experience on big grounds. They know how to do it. Melbourne have played Adelaide Oval once.
I don't think they'll want to remember that time last year.
I don't think they will. So I think that the Melbourne fans will get behind their team, and that could be a bonus. But I'd like to see both teams just all out attack, really. If I'm the coaches of those sides, I'm not tagging anyone. Let's go head to head and see what happens.
I mean, Taylor Harris, Sarah, up against the Brisbane Lions, one of her former sides. That's a storyline in itself, and Melbourne's forward line has been so dynamic this year. That's one of their strengths.
Yeah, for sure. And Taylor was the match winner last time these two sides played earlier this year. It was one of the games of the season, I think. The Lions are obviously coming off a pretty rough trot in terms of games and COVID, but these two sides do match up super, super well. The Brisbane defence is going to be really interesting. How do they manage Taylor without Kate Lutkins? They had Shannon Campbell on her last time they played. I love Shannon Campbell, but she's just a little bit too short to be playing on Taylor, and they don't really have an obvious choice.
Well, it's going to be a historic moment on Saturday, the first ever AFLW game at the MCG. Cannot wait for that, and neither can Lily Mithen.
Yeah, playing at the MCG is a lifelong dream of mine and many others, and to have that opportunity is pretty surreal, especially playing in a prelim final. Had you have said at the start of the year or start of my AFLW journey that you'd be able to play a prelim final at the MCG, it's pretty crazy, and we're really looking forward to the opportunity.
Oh, it's so awesome, and I hope everyone gets down there. Free tickets, of course, into the MCG on Saturday. You don't want to miss it. Now, need to talk about the Giants because GWS has parted ways with Alan McConnell, its inaugural coach. This is what he said late last week when the news came out. He's looking forward to taking on a new challenge. Sarah, just talk me through, I guess, what's transpired at the Giants and maybe who is in contention to take over.
Yeah, so McConnell's been there for 5 years now, and I think maybe the time was right to try something new, get a fresh voice in there, mix things up maybe in terms of the game plan. We've spoken a lot on this show about the Giants' inconsistency over the season, both within quarters and across games. I think it's time for something new. He was the right coach at the time. In their second season, third season, did some really good things to bring that side together. But yeah, as I said, time for a new coach.
Bec, what are you thinking? You put your hat on. Who's out there?
Oh, I'd love to see something different done, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to see our first ever playing coach in the AFLW, and Alicia Eva. She's got a lot on her plate, and she's still playing really well. And I would hate to see her retire from the game too early. It's retirement's a long game, so you've got to keep the other one going as long as you can. But why can't we have a bit of a co-coaching arrangement? So they find someone that's going to complement Alicia, so on game day she can actually do a thing and still play, but she can still coach the side during the week. I'd love to see something innovative like that from the Giants.
I like that idea, and maybe the Giants just might steal it. All right, time to look at Richmond's season. Sarah, this one's on you. 3-7, they finished 11th on the ladder. We liked what we saw from the Tigers this year. What was the biggest positive from your point of view?
Yeah, so it finished 11th, which is actually a step down on last year. But I think, there's no denying the fact that Richmond improved their second year under Ryan Ferguson. Their forward line was the one that really caught my eye, especially we just saw Courtney Wakefield there, but she missed the majority of the season. And I was quite concerned early days that was going to be a real struggle for them. But they were incredibly efficient when they got the ball in attack, and there weren't many sides that were able to shut them down completely. Amelia Yasir was a great inclusion just at ground level, and Taylor Stahl had her best season at AFLW level as well.
Yeah, no, they were certainly impressive up forward with that spread of goal kickers. But what about their defence? Because obviously with Harriet Cordner going down, that was a massive loss for them.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Tigers is that they've been such high scoring, but they've led scores the other way. So, you're going to get an exciting game, but, it's not necessarily the way that the defensive coach should be thrilled about. Cordner's going to be a huge hole, not just for this season just gone, but for season 7, especially with an August start. I thought Bec Miller was excellent. She showed really good improvement, but they're going to have to find another solution, I think, just to support Bec down in a key defensive role.
Looking at Geelong, probably we thought early days they were one of the big improvers in the competition, just with their game style and the way they were going about it. They finished 12th, just the 2 wins, 8 losses, Bec, for the season. What did you like most about the Cats in 2022?
Well, I thought they took a lot more risks. So it was pretty exciting to see the midfield and just actually take possession of the footy and be risky in what they were doing. And they ended up actually having quite a few close games and just missing out on those. And that says to me that's sort of a level of maturity that just needs to grow in that group. When the game's in the balance, how mature can you be to be able to hang on? And so if we're looking at growth areas for Geelong, I think they've got to find an A grader of elite standards that drives them off the field. So when you're in the gym, who's setting that standard? Because we've got players now there, Press Parkes, Chloe Shear, who's setting those standards to push them further forward. Yep. And that's where I reckon they've got a bit of growth.
Okay, that's a good point that you make. Time now, though, for the buzz. And everyone has been talking about one man, and that was Buddy Franklin with his 1,000th goal at the SCG on Friday night. And what a moment. And there were some giants who decided to rock up to the SCG and sprint onto the ground. I think this is Elise Parker's Instagram. She was there with a few of her teammates in amongst it all, and I look at that and just think COVID outbreak, to be honest. But it was a moment in history, a moment to savour. And Bec, I know as a Hawthorn person, you remember those 580 goals, the first 580, and gosh, it was a special moment.
Oh, it was a really emotional night on the couch for me. But we know Elise Parker's a pretty decent runner. She's got a long tank in the GWS midfield, so Alan McConnell wouldn't have been surprised to see her charging out there at a rapid speed with the phone to capture the moment. A great moment in footy. So lucky. How lucky are we to have seen it?
Yeah, so lucky. I don't think we appreciated it enough when he was in the brown and gold. All right, this one is from Darcy Vesio. They are, of course, very, very witty and clever indeed is Darce. But Ash Barty's retirement, well, this is Kate Shee's phone right now, just absolutely off the hook with Ash Barty requests. Have you?
I'm glad Gary got a call in there.
Yeah, just one.
Ash Barty's partner. Yeah, just got the phone call in. Listen, Nat, we don't tell people our goals. We just show them our results.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is interesting, intriguing. Watch this space, I say, for what is next with Ash Barty and perhaps maybe a foray into the AFLW competition. We shall see. Of course, Bec is here as well, thanks to Zena Sport, a valued NAB customer. The Zena Z1 Youth Vest are a fantastic way to ensure that we are empowering and protecting female athletes of all ages, particularly those who play contact sports. Available today at zenasport.com. And Bec, you'll be getting a couple of those to take to the Hawthorn gals.
Yes,
just
please.
For a little bit of
Fantastic.
protection.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much for coming in. Quick tip on both prelims before we let you go.
The heart tells me that I'd love Melbourne to win it at the G. I think Daisy Pearce is due one, but the head tells me that it will probably be Brisbane. I thought their football yesterday was incredible and they know how to win finals at big venues. And Adelaide too strong at Adelaide Oval.
Sarah?
Yeah, Adelaide and Brisbane for mine will be a grand final rematch, a literal grand final rematch.
Well, Adelaide and Melbourne for mine, Daisy's Dees, to get the job done at the MCG for sure. Thank you so much for watching the W Show. Thanks, of course, to NAB. It's great to have your company again. We'll see you next week.